I watched through the crack in the hospital chapel door as my sister stood before a justice of the peace in a cream-colored dress that wasn't quite white, but wasn't quite anything else either. Beside her, propped up in a wheelchair, was my husband. My legally married husband. James could barely hold his head up. The cancer had ravaged him to the point where he needed help drinking water. But there he was, with Melissa gripping his hand, reciting vows in a voice I didn't recognize, too sweet, too soft, like poisoned honey. The justice of the peace looked uncomfortable. "And do you, James Michael Ashford, take?" "He does," Melissa interrupted. "He told me earlier. He can't speak much now, but he wants this. Don't you, James?" James's head lolled slightly. It might have been a nod. It might have been nothing. I should have burst in. Should have stopped it. But I stayed frozen behind that door, my phone recording every second, because I needed her to finish. I needed her to complete this grotesque performance so I could show the world, and the courts, exactly who my sister really was. A woman willing to marry a dying man for $300 million. A woman who'd forged documents, seduced his attorney, and manipulated our elderly parents. A woman who'd been planning this for longer than I ever imagined. But here's what Melissa didn't know. I'd been planning too. And unlike her messy, desperate scheme, mine was airtight. Because you don't become one of Manhattan's top attorneys by being sentimental. You do it by being smarter, colder, and more patient than anyone expects. My sister thought she was attending a wedding. She had no idea she was walking into her own funeral. Before we go any further, I need to know, are you someone who believes in karma? Or do you believe we have to create our own justice? Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from, because this story gets darker than you think. And if you're here for the full revenge, hit that subscribe button. You'll want to see how this ends. Let me take you back to the beginning. Not to when I met James, but to when I first understood what my sister really was. I was 11. Melissa was 9. Our parents ran a tiny Szechuan restaurant in Flushing, Queens. The kind with linoleum floors and plastic tablecloths and customers who came back every week because Mom's mapo tofu was the best in the borough. My father worked the walk from 10 a.m. to midnight. My mother handled everything else: hostess, server, bookkeeper, janitor. They'd immigrated from Chengdu with nothing but a suitcase and a dream that their daughters would have better lives. That dream lived in me. I studied until my eyes burned. I memorized vocabulary words while folding napkins. I did calculus homework on my phone during subway rides. Melissa? Melissa was beautiful. That was enough in her world. While I was buried in SAT prep books, she was taking selfies with the Polaroid camera she'd begged for. While I worked summer internships, she worked on her tan at Rockaway Beach. And our parents loved her just as much as they loved me. Maybe more, in the way you love something fragile. Melissa needs more help, my mother would say when I asked why they paid for her headshots but not my college application fees. You're strong, Victoria. You'll make it on your own. I did make it. Full ride to Cornell. Columbia Law. Job offers from 3 top firms before graduation. Melissa dropped out of community college after 1 semester. But I wasn't resentful. Not really. She was my little sister. I loved her. The first crack appeared at my law school graduation. My parents hosted a dinner at the restaurant. They'd closed it for the night, set up a long table, invited all our relatives. I was 25, about to start at Morrison and Sterling with a 6-figure salary. I felt invincible. Melissa was 23, living at home, working part-time at a boutique. During the toasts, my father stood up, tears in his eyes. "Our daughter Victoria," he said in Mandarin, "has brought honor to our family. She is everything we dreamed of." Melissa excused herself to the bathroom. I found her 20 minutes later in the alley behind the restaurant, smoking a cigarette, something I'd never seen her do. "You okay?" I asked. She looked at me, and for just a second, I saw something raw and ugly cross her face. Then it was gone, replaced by her usual smile. "I'm fine. Just proud of you, Vicky." So proud. But her eyes were dry. I should have paid more attention to that moment. Should have understood that pride and envy can wear the same mask. I met James 3 years later at a charity gala at the Museum of Natural History. He was standing under the blue whale, looking bored in a tuxedo that probably cost more than my first car. I was there representing a client, nursing a glass of champagne I was too busy to drink. He turned, gestured expansively at the whale, and somehow managed to knock the champagne out of my hand and all over my dress. "Oh my God," he said. "I am so sorry. I wasn't, let me." "It's fine," I said, dabbing at the dress with a napkin and already calculating whether I could expense a replacement. "It's not fine. That's a Marchesa, isn't it? I was surprised he knew. Good eye. My mother lived in these things. Look, please send me the cleaning bill. Or the replacement bill. Whatever. He pulled out a business card. I looked at it. James M. Ashford, CEO, Ashford Industries. I knew the name. Everyone knew the name. Ashford Industries was old money that had successfully become new money. Technology, pharmaceuticals, real estate. Forbes had recently estimated the family fortune at around $300 million. I handed him my card. Victoria Chun, Morrison and Sterling. I'll have my assistant send you the bill. He smiled. Victoria Chun. Are you the Victoria Chun who handled the Maximilian merger last year? You followed that case? I followed you. You destroyed opposing counsel. It was beautiful in a terrifying sort of way. I smiled despite myself. Terrifying is my brand. Then you're probably too terrifying for dinner. But I'm going to ask anyway. We were married 13 months later. The wedding was everything my parents had dreamed of, 4 seasons, 300 guests, a dress that cost more than their annual revenue. My mother cried. My father gave a speech in broken English about how his daughter had exceeded every dream. And Melissa was my maid of honor, beautiful in champagne silk, smiling in every photo. She gave a toast that made everyone tear up. Victoria has always been my hero. The smart one, the strong one, the one who knew exactly where she was going. And now she's found someone who sees what I've always seen, that she's extraordinary. James, you better take care of my sister, or you'll answer to me. Everyone laughed. James raised his glass to her. I hugged her, feeling lucky to have a sister who loved me this much. I didn't see the way she looked at him when she thought no one was watching. I didn't see the way her smile faded the moment the cameras turned away. I didn't see it because I'd never learned to look for betrayal in the people I loved. The first 5 years of marriage were good. Better than good, they were everything. James ran Ashford Industries with the same careful precision his family had always brought to business. I made partner at Morrison and Sterling at 32, the youngest in the firm's history. We bought a penthouse overlooking Central Park. We collected art, Rothko, Basquiat, a small Picasso sketch that James bought me for our first anniversary. We talked about children. Not yet, we said. Soon. When work calmed down. When the timing was right. And Melissa was part of our lives the way family is. Sunday dinners sometimes. Holidays always. I helped her when she needed it, paid off credit cards, co-signed a lease when her credit was bad, bought her a car when hers died. You're so generous, James would say. She's my sister, I'd reply as if that explained everything. Looking back, there were signs. Small ones. The way Melissa would linger after dinner, volunteering to help clean up so she could stay longer. The way she always sat next to James at family gatherings. The way she'd call him directly sometimes, asking for advice about her life, her relationships, her problems. Your sister called again, James would mention casually. She's thinking about going back to school. I told her I thought it was a good idea. That's nice of you, I'd say, distracted by a brief or a closing or a deposition. I was always distracted. That's what being a partner at a top law firm means. You're always halfway somewhere else, mentally building arguments, reviewing contracts, preparing for trial. I thought James understood. He had his own empire to run. But empires get lonely. And Melissa was never too busy to answer her phone. I need you to understand something before we continue. I wasn't a neglectful wife. I wasn't cold or distant. But I was ambitious, and I'd been taught my whole life that success meant sacrifice. If you've ever put your career first, if you've ever missed something important because you had to work, stay with me. Because what happens next is every successful woman's nightmare. March 15th. That was the day everything changed. James had been tired for months. Losing weight. Experiencing pain he kept dismissing as stress, or aging, or too much rich food at client dinners. I finally forced him to see our doctor after I found him hunched over the bathroom sink at 3 a.m., pale and sweating. The doctor ordered tests. Then more tests. Then called us in for a meeting that I knew, the moment we sat down, would change our lives. Pancreatic cancer, Dr. Morrison said. Stage 4. It's aggressive, and it's already metastasized to the liver. The room tilted. Treatment options? I heard myself ask, my lawyer brain taking over while my wife brain screamed. Limited. Chemotherapy might buy a few months, but the quality of life would be severely compromised. We're looking at 6 months, maybe less. I'm sorry. James was quiet on the drive home. When we got to the apartment, he walked straight to the window and stood there, looking out at the park, at the city, at the life he was about to lose. I need to tell you something, he said finally. I'm not doing chemo. James. I've watched people die from this, Victoria. Slowly, painfully, losing themselves piece by piece while the drugs make them too sick to enjoy whatever time they have left. I won't do that. I want to live whatever time I have left as myself. I wanted to argue. Wanted to insist we fight this with everything we had. But when I looked at his face, I saw that he'd already made peace with his death. He was asking me to make peace with it too. Okay, I whispered. Okay. We held each other for a long time, and I felt his body shake with sobs he'd been holding back since the doctor's office. That night I called Melissa. Vicky. She answered on the first ring, always on her phone. What's wrong? You sound terrible. It's James. He's sick. Really sick. What do you mean sick? Cancer. Pancreatic. Stage 4. They're saying 6 months, maybe less. The silence on the other end lasted too long. Melissa. I'm here. I'm just, oh my God, Vicky. I'm so sorry. What can I do? Do you need me to come over? I can come right now. No, it's late. I needed to tell you. I needed to tell someone. I'm here for you. Whatever you need. You're not going through this alone. Her voice was thick with emotion, with what I thought was sympathy. I didn't recognize it as excitement. The next 2 weeks were a blur of appointments, oncologists, palliative care specialists, financial advisors, and estate attorneys. James was methodical about dying, the same way he'd been methodical about everything else. He wanted his affairs in order. He wanted me protected. We met with his attorney, Robert Chun, in the study of our apartment. Robert had been with the Ashford family for years, had handled James's parents' estates, had guided the company through various legal situations. I'd always liked him, trusted him. The will is straightforward, Robert explained, laying out documents on James's desk. Everything transfers to Victoria. The company shares, the properties, the investment portfolios, the art collection. There are charitable bequests, of course, but the bulk of the estate goes to you. What about taxes? I asked, my mind automatically going to logistics. Already structured to minimize the burden. The company shares are in a trust. The real estate is held by LLCs. We're talking about roughly $300 million in total assets, and you'll receive somewhere in the neighborhood of $260 million after taxes and charitable distributions. $300 million. It was more money than I'd ever really thought about, even being married to James. We lived well, but we weren't ostentatious. The number felt abstract, almost meaningless, in the face of losing the man I loved. And there's no one else? Robert asked. No other family members who should be included? James shook his head. My parents are gone. No siblings. Victoria is my family. What about my family? I asked. Should we leave something for my parents? For Melissa? James looked at me, and I saw something I couldn't quite read in his expression. Do you want to? I thought about it. My parents are taken care of, they have the restaurant, their savings. And Melissa? I help her when she needs it. I think it's fine as is. Then we're done, Robert said. I'll have the final documents ready for signature next week. After Robert left, James pulled me close. You're going to be okay. Financially at least. That's one thing I can give you, security. I don't want your money, I said. I want you. I know. But you're going to have both for a little while. And then you're going to have just the money, and you're going to build something beautiful with it. Promise me? I promise. I meant it. But I had no idea how hard that promise would be to keep. Melissa came over the next day. I'd taken the week off work, something I never did, and she'd texted asking if she could bring lunch. She arrived with Thai food from our favorite place in Queens, the one we'd been going to since we were teenagers. She hugged me at the door, and I let myself break down in her arms. I don't know how to do this, I sobbed. I don't know how to watch him die. You're not alone, she said. I'm here. I'll help however I can. She stayed all afternoon. We ate. We cried. She made me laugh with a story about a disastrous date. And when James woke up from his nap, she was gentle with him, kind, asking how he felt, offering to make him tea. Your sister is wonderful, he told me that night after she left. We're lucky to have her. We are, I agreed. And I believed it. God help me, I believed it. But there was something that should have warned me. A memory that kept surfacing in the weeks that followed, though I didn't understand why. I was 16. Melissa was 14. I'd won a scholarship, a full ride to a summer program at MIT, studying corporate law and business ethics. It was prestigious, competitive. Only 20 students nationwide were selected. My parents were proud but worried. It's so far away, my mother said. And you work so hard already, Victoria. I'll be fine, I'd insisted. This could change everything for me. Melissa had been quiet through dinner the night I got the acceptance letter. Picked at her food. Excused herself early. I found her in our shared bedroom later, sitting on her bed, my acceptance letter in her hands. Melissa? What are you doing? She looked up, and her eyes were red. Why do you get everything? What? You're pretty. You're smart. Mom and Dad are so proud of you. What am I supposed to be proud of? I sat down beside her. Melissa, you have so much. I have nothing, she said quietly. I'm just the other daughter. The one who isn't special. That's not true. You're beautiful. You're creative. You're good with people in ways I'll never be. She laughed bitterly. Being pretty isn't the same as being valuable, Vicky. You'll figure that out someday. When you have everything and I have nothing, and you'll realize you never even noticed. It scared me that moment. The rawness of her pain, the depth of her resentment. I'll always share with you, I promised. Whatever I have, you'll have too. We're sisters. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she smiled, that bright Melissa smile that could light up a room. I know. I'm sorry. I'm just being dramatic. You know how I get. I hugged her, and we didn't talk about it again. But now, 2 decades later, lying awake in bed next to my dying husband, that memory felt different. Like a prophecy I'd been too naive to interpret. When you have everything and I have nothing. What if, to Melissa, this had always been inevitable? What if she'd been waiting her entire life for her chance to take what was mine? Melissa started coming over every day. At first, I was grateful. I was trying to balance work. I'd taken on reduced hours, but I couldn't abandon my clients entirely, with caring for James. Having Melissa there to help seemed like a blessing. She'd arrive around 10 a.m. after I'd left for the office. She'd bring groceries, cook meals, keep James company while he watched TV, or slept or tried to read books he could no longer concentrate on. Your sister is a godsend, the first nurse told me. We'd hired round-the-clock care by week 3, when James became too weak to manage on his own. She's here more than you are. The comment stung, even though it was true. I have to work, I said defensively. Of course. I'm just saying, it's nice that he has family with him. James started mentioning her constantly. Melissa found this great soup. Melissa told me the funniest story. Melissa suggested we watch this documentary. I told myself I wasn't jealous. I was grateful. But then small things started bothering me. The way Melissa had rearranged the kitchen to make things easier. The way she'd bought new throw pillows for the living room. Just to brighten things up. The way James's eyes would light up when she walked into the room. The same way they used to light up for me. She's just trying to help, I told myself. But one evening, I came home early from a meeting that had been canceled. I walked into the apartment and heard voices from the living room. Laughing. James's laugh, which I hadn't heard in weeks. I stood in the hallway listening. You're terrible, James was saying, still chuckling. I'm honest, Melissa replied. Someone needs to tell you when you're being ridiculous. Victoria never tells me I'm ridiculous. That's because Victoria sees you as her husband. I see you as a person. Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. This intimacy, this casual familiarity. When had it developed? I walked in. They were sitting on the couch, close but not touching. Melissa had her feet tucked under her. James was wrapped in the cashmere blanket I'd bought him. Vicky! Melissa jumped up. I didn't hear you come in. Clearly. The word came out sharper than I intended. James frowned. Long day, he asked. Something like that. Melissa, thanks for staying with James, but I'm home now. Oh, okay. She gathered her purse, her expression hurt. I'll see you tomorrow, James. Feel better. After she left, James looked at me. That was rude. Excuse me? She's been here all day, keeping me company, and you dismissed her like staff. I didn't dismiss her. I thanked her. You told her to leave. Because I'm here now. Because I want time with my husband. James sighed, settling back into the couch. I'm sorry. You're right. She makes things easier. She doesn't look at me like I'm dying. The words hit like a punch. Is that how I look at you? Sometimes. And I understand why. But Melissa, she just treats me like I'm alive. I had no response to that. The breaking point came 3 weeks later. I'd left my phone at home, something I never did. Halfway to the office, I realized it and turned around. I had an important call coming in from a client in London, and I needed that phone. I used my key quietly, not wanting to disturb James if he was sleeping. The nurse was on a break. I'd passed her in the lobby heading to the coffee shop. The apartment was silent. I grabbed my phone from the kitchen counter and was about to leave when I heard voices from James's bedroom. Low. Intense. I should have called out. Should have announced myself. But something stopped me. Some instinct, some whisper of warning that had been growing louder for weeks. I moved silently down the hall and stopped outside the bedroom door, which was cracked open a few inches. Can't keep doing this, James was saying. His voice was weak but firm. Victoria is my wife. This is wrong. What's wrong? Melissa's voice soft and pleading. Talking? Being here for you. You know it's more than that. The things you've been saying. I'm just being honest about my feelings, James. Is that a crime? When those feelings are about your sister's husband? Yes. My hand gripped the doorframe so hard my knuckles went white. She's never here, Melissa said. She's always working, always on her phone, always somewhere else. I'm the one who's here. I'm the one who sees you, really sees you. Because she's trying to maintain our life. Because she's scared and work is the only thing she can control right now. Is that fair to you? You're dying, James. Dying. And she's in court arguing about mergers. When you're gone, she'll have her career, her money, her perfect life. What will I have? I'll have lost the only man I've ever really loved. Silence. Melissa. I know you feel it too. I see the way you look at me. We have a connection, James. Something real. Something that goes beyond. Stop. James's voice was sharp. Just stop. I love Victoria. I have only ever loved Victoria. What you think you see is loneliness and gratitude being mistaken for something else. And I'm asking you, I'm begging you, to stop before this destroys what's left of our family. But the will. My blood went cold. What about the will? James asked slowly. I just mean, Victoria is going to be fine. She has her own money, her own career. But if you wanted to leave something to me, to show that you valued what we had, I would understand. And she would too, eventually. Get out. James. Get out of this room. Get out of this apartment. I want you to leave, and I don't want you to come back. You're upset. Let me just. Melissa. Please. Just go. I heard movement, Melissa standing up, I assumed. Then her voice cold now, all the sweetness gone. You'll regret this. When you're lying here alone, when Victoria is at work and you need someone, you'll regret sending me away. I'll take that risk. I backed away from the door, my heart pounding, and slipped into the study. I heard Melissa's footsteps in the hallway, heard the front door open and slam shut. I waited 5 minutes before going to James. He was sitting up in bed, looking exhausted and defeated. How much did you hear? He asked without looking at me. Enough. He closed his eyes. I'm sorry. I should have told you weeks ago. I kept hoping she'd stop, that it would just go away. Tell me everything. And he did. James told me it had started subtly. Comments about how hard I worked, how lucky he was to have someone who cared enough to stay with him when he was like this. Melissa touching his hand a little too long. Sitting a little too close. Then, 3 weeks ago, she'd told him she loved him. It was late, James said. You were working on that text-our brief, pulling an all-nighter at the office. She'd brought dinner and stayed to watch a movie with me. When it ended, she just said it. I love you, James. I've loved you since Victoria first brought you home. I know it's wrong, but I can't keep it inside anymore. What did you do? I told her that wasn't appropriate. That I loved you, only you. That she needed to leave. But she started crying, saying she couldn't help how she felt, that she'd tried to suppress it for years. She made it sound like this grand romantic tragedy instead of what it actually was, betrayal. And you let her keep coming here. I thought if I was kind but firm, she'd move on. I thought making a big deal out of it would hurt you unnecessarily. And honestly, he looked at me, his eyes wet. I was lonely, Victoria. I know that's not fair to you. I know you're doing everything you can. But I'm dying and you're living, and sometimes the distance between those two things feels impossible to bridge. I sat on the edge of the bed, processing. Part of me wanted to rage at him for not telling me immediately. But the larger part, the part that loved him, understood. She asked you to change your will. A week ago. She sat right here and told me that you'd be fine without all the money, that you had your career and your own wealth. She said I could make a meaningful impact on her life by leaving her something substantial. When I refused, she got angry. Started saying that I was being manipulated by you, that you'd turned me against my own family. We're her family. That's what I said. But she's convinced herself of a different story. One where she's the victim and you're the villain who stole her chance at happiness. I stood up, my mind already working through the implications. I need you to tell me if anything she said is true. Even 1%. Because if you have feelings for her, if there's any part of you that No. He grabbed my hand with what little strength he had. God, no, Victoria. I love you. I want to spend every moment I have left with you. I want you to have everything I can give you, not because of the money, but because building a life with you is the best thing I ever did. Melissa isn't, she's not real to me. She's a sad person who saw opportunity in my tragedy. I believed him. I had to believe him because the alternative would destroy me. Okay, I said. Okay. But James? She's not done. People like Melissa don't give up when they want something this badly. What do you think she'll do? I thought about my sister, beautiful, charming, utterly devoid of boundaries. I thought about the desperation in her voice when she'd talked about the will. I thought about how much $300 million would mean to someone who'd never had anything. I don't know yet, I admitted. But whatever it is, we need to be ready. I didn't know how right I was. Melissa didn't take rejection well. The calls started that night. 23 calls to my phone, 17 to James's. When we didn't answer, she left voicemails that progressed from tearful apologies to angry accusations. You're poisoning him against me, Victoria. You always have to win, don't you? You always have to have everything. James, please call me back. I know Victoria is making you do this. Just talk to me. Just let me explain. You're both going to regret this. I'm family. You can't just throw away family. I blocked her number. James did the same. She showed up at the apartment 2 days later. The doorman called up, and I told him not to let her up. She screamed at him in the lobby, loud enough that other residents complained. Security had to escort her out. Then she turned to our parents. My mother called, confused and hurt. Victoria, what happened? Melissa is here crying, saying you won't let her see James. That you've become cruel since he got sick. Did she tell you why? She says she doesn't know. That you just suddenly shut her out. I explained as gently as I could that Melissa had developed inappropriate feelings for James and that he'd asked her to stop visiting. The silence on the other end was long. Victoria, my mother finally said. Are you sure? Melissa said. She said you were being paranoid. That the stress was making you see things that aren't there. The accusation stung. I'm not paranoid, Mom. James told me himself. But Melissa wouldn't, she's your sister. She loves you. Did she, though? Had she ever? I need you to trust me on this, I said. Please. I just think, maybe you should talk to someone. A therapist. This is a very stressful time. She didn't believe me. My own mother didn't believe me. I have to go, I said, and hung up before she could hear me cry. That night, alone in the bathroom with the shower running to cover the sound, I broke down completely. Great, ugly sobs that felt like they were being torn from my chest. I cried for James, for the life we were losing. I cried for my family, fracturing under the weight of my sister's greed. I cried for myself, trying to hold everything together while everything fell apart. When I finally emerged, red-eyed and exhausted, James was waiting. I heard, he said simply. The shower was on. I know you. Come here. I climbed into the hospital bed beside him, carefully, so carefully, and let him hold me. We're going to get through this, he said. All of it. But his voice was weaker than it had been the week before. Time was running out, and Melissa was just getting started. If you're still watching right now, you're exactly the kind of viewer I love. Subscribe so I can keep giving you stories that touch your heart. Hit that bell so you never miss what happens next. I hired a private investigator the next morning. His name was Marcus Reed, and he came highly recommended by a colleague who'd used him during a difficult divorce case. He was mid-50s, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. What do you need? He asked, sitting across from me in a coffee shop 3 blocks from my office. Information on my sister. Her finances, her communications, her movements. I think she's planning something, but I don't know what. Why not just cut her off completely? Change the locks, get a restraining order? Because I need to know what she's capable of. I need evidence, not just suspicions. And if she's planning something that could affect my husband's estate. I paused. I need to be ready. He nodded, understanding. It'll take about 2 weeks for a comprehensive report. I'll need her full name, address, social security number if you have it. I gave him everything. One more thing, I added. She's been in contact with James's attorney, Robert Chin. I don't know the nature of their relationship, but I'd like to know. His eyebrows rose. You think they're working together? I think my sister is very good at manipulating men, and Robert has access to all of James's financial information. So yes, I think it's possible. I'll look into it. He delivered the report 10 days later, and it was worse than I'd imagined. Melissa had consulted with 5 different estate attorneys in the past 2 months, always asking the same questions. How to contest a will. What constitutes undue influence? Whether a surviving spouse's claim could be challenged if there was evidence of coercion. She'd taken out a $50,000 loan using our parents' restaurant as collateral, forging my father's signature on the documents. The loan was from a predatory lender with 22% interest. She was already behind on payments. And the photos. God, the photos. Melissa and Robert Chin at a restaurant in Newark. Melissa and Robert Chin entering a hotel in Queens. Melissa and Robert Chin at a coffee shop with documents spread between them. Documents that, when the PI zoomed in, appeared to be copies of James's financial records. Your sister and the attorney are definitely involved, Marcus said, sliding another set of photos across my desk. Romantically, professionally, or both. They've been meeting 2 to 3 times a week for the past month. I stared at the photos, feeling cold. He's giving her information. That would be my guess. He has access to everything. The will, the trusts, the business structure. If she's planning to contest anything, he's giving her the roadmap. Can we prove that? Not yet. But if you want me to keep digging, do it. Whatever it costs. He left, and I sat alone in my office, looking at the evidence of my sister's betrayal spread across my desk. This wasn't just about wanting James or being jealous of my life. This was calculated, methodical. She'd been planning this since the day we got the diagnosis. Maybe longer. I pulled out my phone and called Patricia Williams, the best estate attorney in Manhattan. If Robert Chin was compromised, I needed someone I could trust absolutely. Patricia? It's Victoria Ashford. I need to schedule an emergency meeting. It's about my husband's estate, and we have a problem. Patricia Williams was everything Robert Chin wasn't: sharp, suspicious, and completely uninterested in being charming. She listened to my story without interrupting, reviewing the PI's report with the same clinical precision I'd seen her bring to courtroom demolitions. Your sister is an idiot, she said finally. Excuse me. She's desperate, which makes her sloppy. And she's chosen to conspire with an attorney who has more to lose than she does. Robert Chin will be disbarred if this comes out. He knows that. Which means when things go wrong, and they will, he'll turn on her to save himself. So what do? First, we draft a new will. Completely airtight. Multiple witnesses, video documentation of James's mental state, medical evaluations confirming his competency. We make it impossible to challenge. And second, Patricia smiled, and it wasn't a kind smile. We give your sister exactly what she wants, just enough rope to hang herself. Over the next week, we implemented the plan. Patricia drafted a new will with provisions I'd never seen before. Clauses specifically designed to prevent challenges. Requirements that any contestant forfeit any potential inheritance, including the help I'd been giving Melissa for years. Statements from James on video, explaining his wishes in excruciating detail. We had 3 doctors evaluate James, all confirming he was of sound mind despite his physical deterioration. We had witnesses, Patricia, her partner, 2 associates, present for the signing. We documented everything. But we didn't file it yet. Because the old will, the one Robert had drafted, was still the official document. And we needed Melissa to believe she still had a chance. Through a mutual friend, someone I trusted completely, I let it slip that James's condition had worsened. That he was barely lucid most days. That the morphine for pain management was making him confused, forgetful, sometimes not even recognizing me. It wasn't true. James was weak, yes, and tired, but his mind was clear. But I needed Melissa to think otherwise. I also fired the nursing service we'd been using and hired a new one. Carefully selected nurses who understood what we were really doing. They weren't just there to care for James. They were there to document everything that happened in that apartment. And I installed cameras. Small, discreet, in every room except the bathroom. All legal, all with James's explicit consent. All ready to capture whatever Melissa tried next. Then we waited. The call came on a Thursday morning. Mrs. Ashford? An unfamiliar voice. This is Daniel Chun from Metropolitan Hospital. Your husband was brought in by ambulance this morning. He's stable, but you should come right away. My heart stopped. What happened? I was just with him 2 hours ago. I don't have all the details, ma'am. Please just come to the ER. I was in the car within 5 minutes, breaking every speed limit between my office and the hospital. My mind raced through possibilities. Had he fallen? Had the cancer progressed faster than expected? Why hadn't the nurse called me? I burst into the ER and was directed to a private room. James was there in a hospital bed, looking tired but alert. Too alert for someone who'd supposedly needed emergency care. What happened? I demanded. He held up a hand. I'm fine. But we have a problem. Where's your phone? Why? Because I need you to turn on the recording app and put it in your pocket. Understanding dawned. She's here. She called the ambulance. Told them I'd collapsed, that I was incoherent. The paramedics showed up, and I was confused. I'd just woken up from a nap. By the time I understood what was happening, they were loading me into the ambulance. Where was the nurse? Melissa sent her out. Told her I'd asked her to pick up a prescription. The nurse should have called you, but Melissa said she'd handle it. I pulled out my phone, started the recording app, and slipped it into my jacket pocket. Where is she now? In the chapel. She said she needed to pray for guidance. But Victoria, I think this is it. Whatever she's planning, it's happening today. I found Melissa in the hospital chapel, sitting in the front row, staring at the simple altar. She didn't turn when I walked in. He could have died, I said, my voice echoing in the empty space. Whatever you're doing, Melissa, he could have died from the stress of being transported unnecessarily. He's going to die anyway, she said softly. At least this way I get to say goodbye. You said goodbye when he asked you to leave. What are you really doing here? She finally turned to look at me. Her eyes were red, but there was something cold underneath the tears. Do you know what it's like, Vicky, to watch you have everything? The career, the husband, the money, the respect? While I have nothing. You have our parents. You have your life. I have debt and a dead-end job, and a studio apartment in a bad neighborhood. I'm 36 years old, and I have nothing to show for my existence. And then James got sick, and I thought, maybe this is my chance. Maybe God was finally giving me something. You thought his death was your opportunity? Why shouldn't it be? He's leaving you $300 million, Victoria. $300 million. Do you have any idea what that kind of money would mean to me? What I could do with even a fraction of it? It's not yours to have. She stood up, and I saw that she was holding something, papers folded carefully. That's where you're wrong. Because I've been doing research, and I've learned a lot about estate law. About how wills can be challenged. About how much power a spouse has versus, she paused dramatically, versus another spouse. My blood went cold. What did you do? James is very sick, Vicky. Confused. On a lot of medications. This morning, when he was particularly disoriented, he agreed to something that he might not even remember. You didn't. She pulled out her phone, showed me a photo. James in the apartment, with what looked like a marriage license in front of him. The photo was blurry, clearly taken quickly, but it was enough. I had a friend who's an officiant, Melissa said. She owed me a favor. She came this morning, right after I sent the nurse away. James signed a marriage license. We said vows. It's all legal, Vicky. I checked. He's already married. To me. You can't. Can I? Because here's the thing. I also have documentation that you and James have been separated for months. That you've been living in hotels, prioritizing work over him. That the marriage was essentially over before he got sick. And if a judge believes that, if they believe that his marriage to me in his final days was his true wish, the dying act of a man who wanted to leave his wife and be with the woman who truly cared for him. She was insane. Completely, utterly insane. This will never hold up in court, I said. Maybe not. But it'll be expensive and messy in public. The media will love it, dying billionaire's wife and sister in legal battle over fortune. Your perfect reputation, your career, everything you've built, it'll all be dragged through the mud. And maybe, just maybe, I'll walk away with enough to finally matter. Guards! I called out. 2 security guards entered. I'd asked them to wait outside, sensing this might get ugly. This woman falsified documents and coerced my husband into signing legal papers while he was incapacitated, I said calmly. I'm pressing charges for fraud, forgery, and elder abuse. Please escort her out of the hospital and ensure she doesn't return. Melissa's eyes went wide. You can't. I can. And I am. And Melissa? Every word you just said was recorded. The phone in my pocket has been recording since I walked in. So please try to contest the will. Try to claim that marriage is legitimate. I'll bury you so deep you'll never see daylight again. The guards took her arms. She struggled, screaming now. This is my money. Mine. I deserve it. You had everything, and I had nothing, and for once, I should get something. They dragged her out, her screams echoing through the hospital corridors. I stood alone in the chapel, shaking, and pulled out my phone. Stopped the recording. Saved it. Backed it up to 3 different cloud services. Then I went back to James. Is it over? James asked when I returned to his room. Not yet. But soon. I called Patricia Williams. Then I called Marcus Reed. Then I called the police. The marriage license Melissa had shown me? Completely fraudulent. The officiant wasn't licensed in New York. The separation documents she'd mentioned didn't exist. And the photo of James signing the license? Taken with a pod of him signing hospital intake forms, digitally altered to show different documents. She'd gotten sloppy. Desperate. Exactly as Patricia had predicted. Robert Chun, when confronted with evidence of his involvement, folded immediately. He admitted to sharing confidential information with Melissa, to helping her research ways to challenge the will, to having an affair with her. He claimed he didn't know about the fake marriage, but his law license was revoked anyway. The loan she'd taken out using our parents' restaurant? I paid it off. I couldn't let my parents suffer for Melissa's choices. But I made sure they knew what she'd done, how she'd forged documents, put their livelihood at risk, all for a chance at money that was never hers. My mother called me, crying. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't believe you. It's okay, Mom. It's not. She's my daughter, and I love her, but what she did. I know. What happens to her now? That was the question, wasn't it? We met in Patricia's office 1 week later. Me, Melissa, her public defender, she couldn't afford private counsel anymore. And Patricia. The charges against Melissa were serious. Attempted fraud, forgery, identity theft, violation of fiduciary relationship. Patricia had compiled everything into a file 3 inches thick. Your client has 2 options, Patricia said, sliding documents across the table. Option 1, we pursue full prosecution. Given the evidence, we're looking at 3 to 5 years in prison, plus restitution for damages. Melissa's lawyer paled. Melissa herself stared at the table. Option 2, your client signs this agreement. She admits to attempted fraud. She agrees never to contact Mrs. Ashford, Mr. Ashford, or any member of their family again. She forgoes any claim, now or in the future, to any part of the Ashford estate. She repays the $50,000 loan she took out fraudulently. Mrs. Ashford will provide a payment plan of $500 per month for 10 years. And she submits to 5 years of supervised probation. What happens if she violates the agreement? The public defender asked. We file criminal charges immediately, using all the evidence we've compiled. No negotiation, no mercy. The lawyer looked at Melissa. You should take option 2. But I take option 2. I watched my sister's face as she processed the end of her scheme. All that planning, all that manipulation, all that desperate grasping at a fortune she'd never deserved. It ended here in a law office, with her signing away any claim to the life she'd tried to steal. Why? She finally asked, looking at me for the first time since we'd sat down. Why not just send me to prison? Because you're my sister, I said quietly. And despite everything, I don't want to be the reason you spend years in a cell. But Melissa, this is your only chance. If you ever, and I mean ever, come near me or my family again, I will end you. Legally, financially, completely. Do you understand? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. She signed the agreement. James died 3 weeks later, on a Sunday morning in early June. The sun was streaming through the windows of our bedroom. I'd moved him back upstairs when things with Melissa ended, wanting him in our space for whatever time remained. The nurses had left us alone. Our parents had visited the day before, saying their goodbyes. It was just the 2 of us. Thank you, he whispered, his voice barely audible. For what? For fighting. For protecting what we built. For being stronger than anyone has a right to be. I learned from the best, I said, holding his hand. He smiled. You're going to do amazing things with this life, Victoria. Promise me. I promise. And you're going to find love again. Real love. Someone who deserves you. James, promise me. I promise. He closed his eyes and his breathing slowed. I felt his hand relax in mine. I love you, I whispered. Love you, he breathed. Always. And then he was gone. The funeral was everything James would have wanted. Small, private, meaningful. 200 people in a church in the Hamptons, followed by burial in the family plot beside his parents. I gave the eulogy. Talked about his kindness, his integrity, his brilliant mind. Talked about how he'd faced death with the same grace he'd brought to life. Didn't mention Melissa. Didn't need to. My parents attended, sitting in the back, staying respectfully distant. They'd aged years in the past few months, the weight of Melissa's betrayal heavy on them. After the service, my mother approached me carefully. You spoke beautifully, she said. Thank you. Victoria, I don't expect your forgiveness. But I want you to know that we love you. And we're proud of you. And if you ever want family again, we're here. I hugged her, and we both cried. The will reading, 1 hour and 57 minutes to 2 hours. The official reading of James's will took place in Patricia's office 2 weeks after the funeral. It was straightforward, just as we'd planned. Everything to me, the company shares, the properties, the investments, the art. Total value, after taxes and charitable donations, $268 million. There is one additional item, Patricia said, pulling out a sealed envelope. Mr. Ashford left this letter for you, to be delivered after the estate was settled. I opened it with shaking hands. My dearest Victoria, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and you've successfully navigated whatever storms came after. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from all of it while I was alive, but I knew you could handle anything that came your way. This money, this fortune, these companies, they're yours now. But they're not what I wanted to leave you. What I wanted was more time. More mornings. More conversations. More life together. Since I couldn't give you that, I'm giving you this permission. Permission to grieve. Permission to rest. Permission to rebuild your life however you see fit. You don't owe anyone anything. Not my memory, not my family's legacy, not society's expectations. You are Victoria Chin Ashford, and you are extraordinary in your own right. Build something beautiful. Live boldly. Love again. All my heart. James. I read it 3 times, tears streaming down my face, before carefully folding it and putting it in my bag. That was 2 years ago. I run Ashford Industries now, though I've restructured it significantly. We've pivoted heavily into renewable energy and pharmaceutical research. Specifically cancer research, funding trials that might help others avoid what James went through. The James M. Ashford Foundation disperses $10 million annually to cancer research, hospice care, and support for families dealing with terminal illness. It's become one of the leading philanthropic organizations in the country. I still practice law, but I've scaled back to part-time. Life is too short to spend it all in conference rooms. My parents and I are rebuilding our relationship slowly. I helped them expand their restaurant. There are now 4 locations across Queens and Brooklyn, all successful. My father is semi-retired. My mother manages the business side of things and calls me every Sunday. We don't talk about Melissa. She completed her probation, I heard through mutual acquaintances. She moved to Los Angeles and works in property management. She's been making her $500 monthly payments consistently. We have no other contact. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about what she did, if she regrets it, if she ever understood that the fortune she wanted so badly would have destroyed her anyway. Money doesn't fix whatever was broken inside her. And me? I'm happy. Actually genuinely happy. I met someone 14 months ago. His name is Marcus, coincidentally the same as my PI, which made for a funny introduction. He's a professor of literature at Columbia, and he had no idea who I was when we met at a bookstore in the West Village. We were both reaching for the same book, a collection of Mary Oliver poems. He insisted I take it, then asked if I'd like to get coffee and discuss it after we'd both read it. We've been together ever since. He knows about James now, knows about the money, knows the whole story. He loves me anyway. Or maybe because of it, because I'm someone who survived something impossible and came out stronger. We're talking about getting married next year. Taking our time. Building something real. People sometimes ask me if I forgive Melissa. If I think about reaching out, trying to rebuild that relationship. The answer is no. Forgiveness isn't the same as reconciliation. I've forgiven her in the sense that I don't carry anger anymore. Don't let what she did poison my present. But that doesn't mean I want her in my life. She taught me something valuable. That family is a choice, not an obligation. That blood doesn't excuse betrayal. That protecting yourself isn't the same as being cruel. I have family now, Marcus, my parents, the friends who stood by me through everything, the colleagues who respected my grief while helping me maintain my career. That's enough. The $268 million? It sits in trusts and foundations and investments, doing good in the world. I live well but not ostentatiously. The penthouse is gone, too many memories. I have a brownstone in Brooklyn now, close to my parents' restaurant, filled with books and art and light. James would be proud, I think, of the foundation, of the company, of how I've honored his memory while building my own life. And Melissa? I hope she finds peace. I hope she gets therapy. I hope she learns that happiness doesn't come from taking what others have, but from building something of your own. But mostly, I just don't think about her anymore. She wanted my life, my husband, my fortune. She tried to steal it all. And she ended up with nothing but the knowledge that she destroyed the only family who ever really loved her. That's justice enough for me. Thank you for staying with me through this entire story. If you've been betrayed by someone you trusted, if you've had to choose between family and self-respect, if you've ever had to fight for what was rightfully yours, I see you. Your story matters too. Leave a comment below. Would you have forgiven Melissa? Was I too harsh or not harsh enough? I read every single comment, and I love hearing different perspectives on difficult choices. And if you believe that justice, real justice, is worth fighting for, subscribe to this channel. Hit that notification bell. Because I have more stories to tell, and they all end the same way. With truth winning over manipulation, with strength defeating greed, with good people protecting what they've built. Remember, protect what's yours. Trust carefully. And never, ever underestimate someone who's been underestimated their whole life. Until next time.